Twice apparently makes a pattern. So I guess this is now a pattern. Welcome back to another top 10, give or take, list of games from this year. This year's 2025. And there are definitely some games to put on this list, some games to talk about. I'm going to do this kind of similar to what happened last year, where I'm going to talk about first some of my honorable mentions, those games that may not have come out in 2025, but they were games that I played for the first time in 2025. And then I'm going to go and talk about the top 10 to see what games that actually did come out this year that I feel are worthy of being in my top 10 list. In case you didn't know, I am M. Haynes. I talk a lot about games, play quite a few games. I would consider myself a gamer. And I love really kind of thinking and evaluating the stuff that I play, the stuff that I engage with. So let's start off with the honorable mentions for this year. Let's see what games that I engaged with from this year that weren't really from this year, and see where we go from there. So, top of the honorable mentions is another Metroid game. I mentioned playing Samus Returns in last year's video, but to be honest, I went back to it, forgot what I was doing, and just started over. So I'm going to count it this year. Samus Returns was fun. I know it's had a lot of controversy around, oh, well, it doesn't do the same thing as the original Metroid 2, and it also isn't a fan-made game that everyone loves like AM2R. But I think Samus Returns was a necessary Metroid game, if for no other reason than the fact that it allowed Mercury Steam to, refine some of their abilities with things like the parry and stuff, and more action-oriented boss fights in order for them to make Metroid Dread. While Samus Returns is nowhere near as good as Dread, let me be honest, and it kind of does get a little long in the tooth towards the end, you definitely can see the foundations that end up making Metroid Dread and hopefully, future 2D Metroid games in here. And for that, I have to respect it. So I did not expect to be playing a Guardians of the Galaxy game. Now, I will say I'm not the biggest fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, like the MCU movies, and I can definitely tell that this game took a lot of inspiration from the character archetypes that movie kind of like cemented in most people's minds, but it still was fun. It was an interesting sort of thing to be able to control and like kind of order around, for lack of a better word, the different members of the Guardians. The writing was very funny, and I did really kind of start to enjoy the story. It seems fun. Like it's and I think that's kind of the best way to describe it. Fun. The movies, from what I've heard, can kind of be described that same way, but I don't know, something about this game didn't rub me the wrong way in the same way that the movies do. It's not a fantastic game, and it's not just one of the Spider-Man games or one of the Batman Arkham games or anything like that. But it was a solid time. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't be mad at doing another playthrough somewhere down the line. One thing I pride myself on is being able to make my own decisions when it comes to games, shows, movies, books, whatever, and also being able to go back and amend those decisions when I'm presented with new information. So when everyone was talking so highly about Hollow Knight, saying it was the best Metroidvania ever made and it's so amazing and so on and so forth, I was like, we'll see. We'll see eventually down the line. And I really didn't pay it that much attention. But now that I've played it and seen at least one of the endings, I can safely go back and say I see what all the hype was about. Hollow Knight is one of those Metroidvanias where you really can kind of get lost in the world. Like, there's not a lot of direction, more than some, to be clear, but there's not like, oh, here's where you go, here's the designated path. And it also doesn't play the most smooth. Like, you won't be doing cool stuff like you do in Metroid Dread or even Prince of Persia Lost Crown, or maybe even the Ori games. But it does what it seeks out to do very, very well. a fantastically interesting lore, some fun platforming challenges, some challenging boss fights, and again, that sense of exploration and freedom that allows you to really just create your own adventure. And for someone like me, that's all I need. You may have noticed there were fewer honorable mentions this year than there were last year. That's because the games that actually made the top 10 took up a lot, and I do mean a lot of time. Like, a lot. So, we really have to kind of take a look at the games that came out in 2025 to really kind of get a feel for kind of how gaming went for me this year. So let's start it off with number 10. I really wanted to like Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, more than I did. Seeing the advertisements for it and seeing people talk about it even before I got my hands on the game, I expected this to be just like a sort of a kid-friendly kind of JRPG, somewhat in the vein of, maybe not in game-making style, but in the kind of tone of a Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi. What I got, though, wasn't quite that. It ended up being way more management sim than I ever expected it to be, which isn't necessarily a problem, but it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. And I think that kind of impacted my enjoyment of it quite a bit. I end up kind of stepping away from it, but it was solid. Like, if I tried to continue to kind of bring down my expectations and kind of meet the game where it was, I can definitely see some high points. I definitely see some good things that it does and did, but it just wasn't quite gelling with what I was looking for. Not a bad game, not a poorly made game by any stretch of the imagination, just not quite my type of game. Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles may also be in that same boat. A game that I thought I would love so much, but ended up not quite gelling with me. This one is especially kind of baffling because I remember playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance to death when I was a kid. Like, I loved that game. I remember just jamming out to the music in the menus. It was great. It was so much fun, but this one just wasn't hitting the same kind of notes. And I don't know. Maybe it's just some of the old school kind of design philosophies. Like, there's a lot of level grind you have to do, and it's really kind of rigorous isn't the word I want, but maybe kind of strenuous in a particular kind of way. Again, not a bad game, like a really fun game actually, but just not quite what I was looking for. Maybe I was too harsh on it. Maybe I need to spend a little bit more time away from it and try to go back and maybe even do a second playthrough, but just not quite what I was searching for. And now we're getting at the games that I really loved. Starting with South of Midnight. I was interested in this game from the moment I saw it. The second I saw that first teaser trailer that introduced us to Hazel and the world that she lived in, this beautiful stop-motion southern-centered world, I was sold. It was a little bit difficult to stay sold once I realized it was going to be Xbox exclusive, but shout out to everything as an Xbox that I was able to get it on a Fire Stick. And I really enjoyed my time with this game. The story was amazing, the music was fantastic, Hazel was really fun, and it felt like a celebration of Black Southern culture in a way that I hadn't seen since Sinners. I do have a couple of gripes with the game, though. It is a PS3 AA style game, for better or for worse. The game, like I said, had a lot of great points, some great story, music, character art, just overall art and design. But the combat was really kind of boring, and the platforming could tend to be a little bit janky. Again, I'm not looking for every single game I put my hands on to be a 10 out of 10, and I'm willing to excuse, some things that don't quite work, because, sometimes games are just sevens. Or, in this case, sometimes games are just in the top 8 of a top 10 list. So hopefully, since it's now going to be ported to Switch and PS5 in the spring, more people will be able to get a chance to play it and kind of make some decisions for themselves. You should play it, by the way. I'm still kind of surprised that I enjoyed Date Everything as much as I did. I've never been a dating sim kind of guy, particularly because I'm not looking for, forced heterosexuality. But Date Everything was really, really fun. I remember seeing the advertisements for it and thinking oh, this is an interesting thing. I kind of love these character designs. But when I actually bought it not long after I got the Switch 2, wow, it was surprisingly hilarious, really engaging, and had a lot more sort of interactivity and gameplay than I was really kind of expecting. I expected, just kind of a point and click adventure, just almost a visual novel style thing. And to be fair, it is mostly that. But I did not expect to just be looking forward to what every character was going to be like, to see what their design was going to be, to see what their personality was going to be like, to see whether they're going to be hot or not. This was a really well-made game with some really talented voice acting. And honestly, I could see myself going back and playing this some more for quite a while. It was fun. It was a good time. And it gives you pretty much every pansexual, bisexual, homosexual, heterosexual, pretty much whatever you want. I mean, it's called Date Everything. And trust me, they do mean date everything. Just missing out on the top 5 is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. As a Metroid fan, I am conflicted about this game. I don't think I hate it nearly as much as a lot of Metroid fans do. I, for one, actually enjoyed the NPC characters. I thought they were kind of interesting, especially a couple of them. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit disappointed. Granted, part of that may be the fact that about 3/4 of the way through, I realized that I enjoyed 2D Metroid a whole lot more than I do 3D Metroid. But even just looking at it in comparison to Prime 1, which is the only other Prime I played at this point, there was a lot of concessions that I don't necessarily think needed to be made. Part of the reason why I don't really gel with 3D Metroid as much as 2D is because it uses a lot of FPS, first-person shooter style kind of design conventions. But ironically, I think if Prime 4 leaned more into the FPS stuff, it would have been a better game. See, it still tries to keep that original Metroid Prime, slow and clunky movement so you can explore more. Oh, you want to beat the game? Nope, psych. Go back and search and find all these things before you can do so. Kind of design strategy. And I think if it was faster, snappier, and maybe didn't rely as much on the deep exploration, which it seemed like the game kind of wasn't that invested in anyway, then I think it would have been overall better. I know that in the recent time, the developers have come out and said that, oh, well, we weren't fully pleased with this game either. So hopefully, by the time we get to Metroid Prime 5, they take some notes, decide which direction they want to take this, and put together something, that is deserving of the Metroid name. Starting us off in the top 5 is Split Fiction. And this one was fun. This one was a lot of fun. So I know there's a lot of back and forth as to whether or not Split Fiction was better or It Takes Two was better, especially because, these are the two Hazelight games that most people know. And I will admit I do have my choice between the two. But I do think, regardless, that this was a really well-made and fun co-op game. You get to play as these two authors, Mio and Zoe, this science fiction author and this fantasy author, as they explore the worlds of their creative minds. There's an interesting story about how their creativity is being stolen and being fed to a machine to just kind of make stories for them. Message. But even outside of that, I think the way that this game decides to incorporate the co-op puzzles and then just the story of these two women, not just learning about themselves creatively and learning to respect one another in their genres creatively, but also learning about themselves as people and learning how to respect one another as a person, is really interesting. And not gonna lie, I was way more engaged with that than the story of this failing marriage from It Takes Two. Regardless though, fun game, really fun gameplay. I'm just waiting, just hoping, to eventually get back to playing it a little bit more, but I gotta wait on my co-op partner. But still, what I did play, what I have enjoyed, has really kind of stuck with me and just really kind of shows how much fun playing a game with your friends can really be. I expected to enjoy Dispatch. I did not expect to enjoy Dispatch as much as I did. I've heard of the Telltale style games, like, as someone who pays attention to Black video game characters, I've heard a lot about Clementine and Lee. But I did not know how engaging that style of gameplay could actually be. Like, I really just thought of it as a visual novel. But no, this is actually a pretty fun, pretty interesting sort of management sim. And this is, if these Telltale style games were like this, then I could definitely see myself playing more. Because Dispatch was hilarious. It was so funny. Its animation is really top tier. And of course the voice acting. The voice acting, even from people who aren't necessarily professional voice actors, everybody really brought their A game. It was a lot of fun. I can even see myself incorporating this in other ways, maybe in some classroom style ways, because I know, yes, I'm going to have censorship on, don't worry. But still, this is a really interesting kind of statement about people's decision making, and not to mention, it's just a good time. I know there's some controversy about, the aggressive heterosexuality, and admittedly, that's not my favorite part of the game, but it's still fun. It's still an enjoyable time, and I'm just hoping that with this being, Ad Hoc's first game, that they are taking in the criticism and figuring out how to make Season 2 even better. I will absolutely be watching and waiting for when that happens. JK, I take my Oh, Blueprints, how I loved you until I didn't. Blueprints is a puzzle roguelike, which in and of itself sounds like two genres that should not mix, but some way this makes those two disparate genres kind of work. For the most part. You see, Blueprints is one of those games that requires a lot from you. You have to be willing to dedicate a lot of writing, a lot of drawing, a lot of memory, a lot of math, a lot of figuring out puzzles, and more than a lot of time in order to really see its true ending. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I just did not have that amount of time. I saw the credits ending, and I eventually did see what the true ending was, but it got to a point to where I just could not keep going with this game. Castle, if you know, you know. That said, though, I did really enjoy this game. I mean, I put well over 100 hours into it on Game Pass, so clearly I kind of liked it at least a little bit. I loved how the lore just continued to unfold in front of you. I loved how it challenged you. I loved the fact that I felt accomplished once I started putting together puzzles. I mean, I love the fact that I have a notebook and like 200 something screenshots from this game. I just wish that there had been, some other off ramp after the first credits, and before the post game, so that I felt like I had achieved something without just kind of slowly walking away. That said, though, I definitely would recommend it if you are into puzzle games. The roguelike elements can get a little annoying, a little in the way, but like with most roguelikes, it's not the end of the world if you don't get to do everything in one day. I mean, they don't expect you to. It's a challenge for you to be able to do so. But yeah, Blueprints was good. Top 3 material, most definitely. And if I ever see it ported maybe to another system, like a Switch, I could definitely see myself picking it up once more again. Quite frankly, I don't know where to begin with Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and maybe not for the reasons that you're thinking. You see, Expedition 33 was a game that I was excited for when I first saw it. I'm old hat at JRPGs. I go all the way back to The Legend of Dragoon on the PS1. Like, I know some JRPGs, and hearing a game say that it's the evolution of JRPGs had me intrigued. And as I started to see and learn more, I could kind of see where they were coming from, so I was excited to pick it up this summer. And when I did, I felt like I got what they were getting at. Like, the prologue, like that very first opening of this game, one of the best prologues I've ever seen. It took less than an hour for me to be so invested in this game and its cast of characters that I was crying. And I enjoyed the first 2/3 of it a whole lot. I was thinking it was going to be my game of the year, my number 1 easily. But then Act 3 happened. And I'm not going to go into spoilers here, but Act 3 and really the ending of the game soured my experience with it quite a bit. It also didn't help that what I started to hear and what I started to see after I finished the game, especially in the past month or so, has really worked to kind of turn me off from it. From rabid, delusional fans to, of course, the AI usage that was brought to my attention. I know some people say that it's been out since the summer, but it was brought to my attention in the past couple of weeks. Has really kind of worked on my experience and made me really have to sit back and think about how I felt about this game and how I was going to rank it for the inevitable video that you're watching now. I eventually settled on trying to kind of drown out the noise of what other people were saying and sort of the different controversies going on the internet and just focus in on my experience. And my experience was that I adored 2/3 of this game, and the last third really kind of soured me on it. So even though I can respect that it does a lot, and I do mean a lot of things well, I'm talking music, writing, characters, combat, The parry system, like, you could talk about that just by itself. It does a lot of stuff right. But man, did it butcher the landing for me. So it has to stay at number 2. It cannot be my number 1 because it has some flaws that just really kind of turned me off. And though my number 1 isn't perfect, it definitely did make me feel quite as conflicted as this game did. I want to choose. If you know me, you know that Hades 1 is one of my favorite games ever made. So it probably is no surprise that Hades 2 ends up taking the gold medal, the top spot, in the year it hit 1.0 release. I was smart enough, I'll say for myself, to avoid early access. I understand the purpose of it. I think it does very well. I mean, this game is proof of that, as well as the first one. But I wanted to be able to experience it when it came out in its full entirety. Still kind of didn't get to do that because they came out with a second ending after I had rolled credits already. But still, I adored Millennium's story. There's a lot going for this game. I think it takes the vast majority of what Hades 1 did and elevates it. It's twice as long, for crying out loud. The music is better. The combat, just the progression of your character is better. There's so much stuff to do. The designs are amazing, even for returning characters. I do have a little bit of gripes about some of the writing, particularly with the ending that I got. Though what kind of elevates this one above the second place game is that while the game in second place actively pissed me off, this game and its ending, I was just a little bit confused. And from what I've been told, the new ending that they patched in, they patched in an ending when they saw that people were not happy. Shout out to Supergiant. Really kind of made me realize that, no, this is actually doable. This is actually fixable. I don't have nearly as much of an issue with this as I may have had with the game that's in second place. And the fact that it's just more Hades, the fact that it's Hades but better, I mean, that's enough. That's enough. There's a reason why these games are so critically acclaimed. And there's a reason why Supergiant just does not miss. I know there are some people who are just waiting with bated breath for this to be ported to like Xbox and PlayStation. But if you have the opportunity to play this before then, do it. In fact, a double dip. I know I plan to. This game is amazing, and it definitely deserves all of the accolades, all the 10 out of 10s, and all the awards that it's been given. Shout out to Supergiant, man. Another banger. I like this whole top 10 content creation type thing. This was another year of fantastic games and a lot of fun putting together this list. I had to make some difficult decisions and really kind of sit back and think about how I wanted to organize this list, but I think it was worth it. Hopefully you think the same. If you do, if you don't, if you disagree, if you agree, feel free to leave your comments, maybe even put together your own list. And what are you excited about in 2026? I know I'm kind of honestly really contemplating as to what I am excited about in 2026. So I think next year's list is going to be interesting because I don't even know what I'm looking forward to next year. I guess we'll have to figure out what makes the list when we come back, same time, same place, next year. See you then.